All right, let's dive into this one.
Yeah.
E.M. Forster's A Passage to India.
Oh, A Passage to India.
I think people are really going to like this one.
Absolutely.
So much to unpack here.
Yeah.
Early 1900s British India. So right away we're dealing with colonialism.
Colonialism, yeah.
And the impact, the effects on relationships.
Yeah, the dynamics between the British and the Indians.
Totally.
Wow.
In Forster, he really gets into not just the politics, but the everyday stuff.
Absolutely.
Like how people are interacting with each other, the cultural differences.
Exactly, and how those differences kind of clash in a very tense environment.
Totally. And we see this tension right away with Dr. Aziz.
Yes.
This young Indian Muslim doctor who's actually, initially he's really excited to be friends with the English.
Yeah, he's very welcoming and generous.
Yeah, and he's the one who kind of goes out of his way to show Mrs. Moore and Miss Quested around.
Yes, he embodies that initial hope for connection.
Right, exactly. It's like this.
Especially with Fielding, that Englishman.
Yes, Fielding, who's a little bit more open-minded.
Right, exactly, who's willing to see beyond the stereotypes.
Right. Exactly.
But even with that, even with those glimmers of hope, there's this underlying tension that's always present.
Right. And we see this with the scene at the mosque, right?
Yes.
Where he's deeply offended.
Deeply offended.
By the behavior of one of the English women.
Yeah, just a small incident.
It seems small.
Yeah.
But it's huge.
But it speaks volumes.
Yes.
It really foreshadows.
It's like this little crack.
A crack in the foundation.
Yeah, and it foreshadows these bigger clashes that are going to happen.
Exactly. It shows you that those cultural misunderstandings are just lurking beneath the surface.
Totally. And then it's talk about a train wreck, the bridge party.
Oh, the bridge party.
The Turton's throw. It's a disaster.
It's a microcosm.
Every conversation, every gesture
of the larger societal issues
is misinterpreted.
You see those prejudices on both sides.
Yes.
The miscommunication, the assumptions.
That's awful.
Yeah.
And then, so then we go from this awkward, terrible party to the Morabar Caves.
The caves.
Which, Aziz takes them there.
He does.
Mrs. Moore, Miss Quested, he wants to show them something beautiful.
Right. He wants to share something special.
Right, but the caves.
But those caves are more than just a tourist's spot.
They're weird, right?
They're eerie.
They're not...
They're unsettling.
Yeah, they're not a happy place.
No, they represent this.
And especially for Mrs. Moore.
Yes, especially for Mrs. Moore.
She kind of has this,
She has a profound experience there.
Existential crisis.
Existential crisis. A loss of faith?
Yeah, she's really shaken.
Not just in her own beliefs, but in the whole Western worldview.
Right, and this is all before we get to the main turning point of the whole book, which is...
the incident.
That incident in the cave.
Yes.
Where Miss Quested accuses Aziz of a crime.
A terrible crime.
And what's so interesting, right, is that...
It's ambiguous.
It's ambiguous. We don't know what happened.
We don't know what really happened.
And it's that mirrors the whole...
the confusion.
The distrust.
Yeah, it makes you question the whole idea of truth.
Right, whose version do you believe?
Exactly. It forces us as readers to confront those same biases and assumptions
Totally.
that the characters are struggling with.
Yeah, and that's going to hang over the rest of the story, that uncertainty.
It does. It really does.
It does.
It sets a very different tone for the rest of the book.
It does, totally.
It's we're entering a darker phase.
Yeah, it's we went into the cave and we never came out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of trapped in there now.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to delve into part 2 of A Passage to India.
Sounds good. It's almost when you read the book, the story shifts a bit here.
It does.
It's we go from this mosque section, which had some hope, to caves.
Yeah, darker.
And it's all that hope just crumbles.
Yeah, and you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
In the mood of the story.
Absolutely.
We go from these open spaces to being kind of trapped and claustrophobic.
Yeah, it's we're all trapped in those caves now.
Exactly. And then we see what happens after the accusation.
Yes, the fallout.
And everything just kind of explodes.
It does. The rumors, the chaos.
It's everyone's forced to pick a side.
Yeah, and you see how those choices really reveal the character's true nature.
And it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because Mrs. Moore, she's already kind of messed up from the caves.
Oh, yeah. She's completely disillusioned.
And then this happened.
And she loses faith, not just in India, but in her own community.
In the British.
Yeah. Most of them just close ranks.
Around misquested.
Around misquested, refusing to question her story.
And on the other side, the Indian community.
Right.
They all rally behind Aziz.
They do. It's very much an us versus them mentality at that point.
Exactly, except for Fielding.
Ah, Fielding.
Right. He's the one who
different.
Stands by Aziz.
He does. He believes in Aziz's innocence.
Even though it makes him, like, an outsider.
It does. It alienates him from his own people.
Totally.
He represents that.
But it's brave. Right.
It is brave, but it's also...
To stand up like that.
Bit naive.
Yeah.
He underestimates the power of prejudice.
Oh, yeah. Well,
in the colonial system.
And then, okay, the trial. Talk about tense.
This trial, oh my gosh.
Like the atmosphere in Chandrapur.
It's a powder keg.
It's like you could cut it with a knife.
Yeah, all those racial biases, all those power dynamics.
Everything just comes out, you know.
They're all laid bare.
It's almost like the whole trial is a symbol, you know.
It is. It's a clash between two cultures.
Yeah, like the clash between East and West.
Exactly.
How they just can't understand each other.
And it exposes the cracks in the facade of British justice.
Totally. And then, oh my gosh, like right when you think it's all over.
Right, when you think the verdict's a foregone conclusion.
Misquested, she recants.
That recantation.
Out of nowhere.
It's shocking.
It's like, what just happened?
It throws everything into chaos.
Totally.
It's a pivotal moment.
You'd think that's a good thing, right?
You'd think so. It's presented as a triumph for Aziz.
But it's not, is it?
But it's a hollow victory.
It's like the damage is already done.
Exactly. His reputation is tarnished.
The relationships are broken.
So relationships are fractured.
It's like there's no real winners here.
No, and there's no sense of relief.
Just this, like, feeling of unease.
Disappointment, disillusionment.
And even Aziz and Fielding, their friendship.
Friendship.
Which was so strong in the beginning.
I know. It held so much promise.
It's just broken.
It's damaged, possibly beyond repair.
Yeah. And then Mrs. Moore.
Poor Mrs. Moore.
I know.
She can't cope.
She just leaves.
She flees India.
Like she can't get away fast enough.
Haunted by what she experienced in those caves.
It's sad.
It is. She represents that complete loss of innocence.
Yeah, the illusion that East and West can actually understand each other.
It's shattered.
Yeah, and then we jump ahead, right?
We do.
It's years later, and we're in this whole new place.
A new setting. Temple.
Temple, yeah.
We find Aziz in a small Hindu state.
Far away.
Far from Chandrapur.
It's like he's trying to escape, you know.
He is. He's trying to find himself.
But he's still carrying all that baggage from the past.
Oh, absolutely. Those wounds haven't healed.
And then Fielding shows up.
Fielding returns.
Married.
And with a twist.
And his wife is Stella.
Stella, Mrs. Moore's daughter.
What are the odds?
It's a coincidence that forces Aziz
to face his past.
To confront his past, yeah.
And I love this part, the Hindu festival.
The festival, oh, it's so vibrant.
All the colors, the music, the rituals.
It's a sensory overload.
It's like a whole different world from the British Raj.
It is. It represents a different way of life.
And Aziz, he's just watching it all.
From the sidelines.
He's like an outsider.
He is. Drawn to the beauty of it all.
But still kind of detached.
Still holding back, still hurt.
Yeah, still hurt by what happened.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the last part, their final meeting.
The final encounter.
Aziz and Fielding. With Ralph Moore there, too.
It's a charged moment.
So much unspoken stuff between them.
A weight of history.
Yeah, and they go out on the boat.
On this little boat.
Surrounded by all this vastness.
It's like the setting mirrors their emotions.
Yeah, all that water.
The vastness of India.
It's like it reflects how far apart they are.
Yeah, and they talk about friendship.
You know, about the possibility of it.
Can they bridge the gap?
Between their nations.
It's such a big question.
But there's so much doubt.
So much doubt, so much uncertainty.
And then that storm.
Storm.
It's like, wow.
As they part ways.
So symbolic, you know?
It is. It leaves us with more questions than answers.
It's like Forster's saying, you know, things are complicated.
It's messy.
Yeah, and colonialism has messed everything up.
It's left scars.
Yeah, and we're left wondering, can those scars ever heal?
Can East and West ever truly reconcile?
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back,
yeah,
we'll try to unpack that ending and really figure out what Forster's trying to say.
I'm ready.
So we're back, and I don't know about you, but I'm still thinking about that storm, you know?
Oh, absolutely. That storm, the ending, the way they part.
It's like Forster leaves us hanging.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, like, what happens next?
I think that's the point, though, right?
Yeah.
It's not a neat and tidy story.
Life's messy.
Exactly. It's
messy.
Yeah.
And especially when you're dealing with something as complex as colonialism.
Colonialism, human relationships.
All the emotions, the prejudices, the power dynamics.
Yeah, and you can't just tie it all up with a bow.
Right. There are no easy solutions.
It's more about grappling with those
The
questions.
questions of justice, of prejudice, of can people from different cultures really connect?
Especially when there's such a huge power imbalance.
Totally. And even though Aziz is cleared,
Yeah, he's legally innocent.
it doesn't feel like a victory.
No, it's a hollow victory.
It's like everyone lost something in the process.
Exactly. The trial exposed those biases.
But it didn't fix them.
No, and I think that's something Forster really wants us to think about.
The lasting effects of colonialism.
The scars that run deep.
Not just on individuals.
But on society as a whole.
And what about friendship?
Friendship. That was such a central theme.
Yeah, Aziz and Fielding.
It started with so much promise.
But by the end, it's like, I don't know.
It's broken.
Damaged.
Their friendship became a victim of the larger conflict.
Like colonialism poisoned everything.
Yeah, even the good things.
And that last conversation they have.
On the boat.
About whether their nations can ever be friends.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, because you can hear the doubt in their voices.
The weight of history is just too heavy.
So, I'm just going to throw this out there. Do you think, after everything we've seen in this story, that kind of friendship between East and West, was it even possible back then?
That's a tough one,
Yeah.
Forster doesn't give us a clear answer.
He wants us to think about it.
To really grapple with it.
Consider all the factors.
The historical context, the individual prejudices.
The power dynamics.
Yeah, and to understand that colonialism wasn't just about politics.
It was about people.
About real people and how their lives were affected.
Their relationships, their beliefs, their sense of self.
And maybe, just maybe, if there was more understanding,
empathy,
a willingness to challenge those ingrained biases.
Maybe then.
But even then, it would have been a long and difficult road.
You're right. A passage to India, it's a story that stays with you.
It does. It makes you think.
And it's relevant even today.
Oh, absolutely. We're still dealing with the legacy of colonialism.
The divisions, the inequalities.
The search for understanding and connection.
So if you haven't read it yet,
definitely add it to your list.
It's a challenging book, but so rewarding.
Forster's writing is just beautiful.
And his characters are so complex and real.
You feel like you know them.
You really do. And that's it for our deep dive into A Passage to India.
It's been a journey.
It has, and we hope you've enjoyed it.
We hope you've learned something.
And that you'll keep exploring these big ideas.
Keep questioning. Keep those minds engaged.
Until next time, happy reading.